Um, okay. Well, welcome everyone to the end of the day, and we're closing out with some great sessions. So today I would love to welcome Femi Jayeola. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And she's here to share with us, we are we really doing this, becoming a leader at your in your at your institution. And it'll focus on for new OER librarians who are tasked with developing OER and affordability initiatives on their campus. So really excited to have you here today, and I'm going to pass it off to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thanks, everybody, and good afternoon, your time, good evening for me. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Femi Jayeola, and I'm so excited to talk to everyone about becoming a leader in open ed and planning OER initiatives. So just to kind of get you guys caught up, today, this presentation will be diving into understanding leadership in OER as well as affordability initiatives. We will explore what leadership skills and strategies are effective while implementing OER initiatives. I'll also be highlighting some key takeaways from my own personal experience as a newer OER and affordable learning materials librarian. And I will also touch base about how drafting a comprehensive action plan for strategic execution of these initiatives will be so helpful in kind of outlining and engaging initiative. And then lastly, I'll be able to hopefully provide a platform for us to engage a little bit and kind of come off mute and support one another as we're sharing kind of what we're doing and different strategies. But first, I'd like to actually gather your own personal perception surrounding these topics with a reaction poll. So the way you do a reaction poll is simply use your reactions in the Zoom. So if you take time to locate that now, it should be where all your other emojis are. Locate that green yes or red no button to answer the question on the screen. And so the question on the screen is, do you consider yourself in this current season a leader in open education? So I'll let you guys take a minute. You can click yes, that check mark, and I'll see it. Okay, good. I see some engagement here. If you don't see it, it's in your reactions where your thumbs up would be and you're clapping. Okay, I saw one person. Okay, two people consider themselves a leader. Good. Any other strong feelings? Okay, good. I'm seeing it's coming in now. Great. So some of us perceive ourselves as leaders. Anyone kind of still on the fence? See a lot. Okay, good. Wow, you guys are better than I thought. This is great. So thank you so much for engaging in that quick poll. I kind of like to gauge the perceptions to kind of understand how you can grow to become a leader and develop as well. When I began my role as an affordable learning librarian in August of 2024, I definitely would have said, no, I'm not. But now, since developing strategies and kind of developing new perspectives, as well as having some experience under my belt, I definitely feel more of a leader in that regard. And I'm excited to provide you guys with a little bit of context of what shaped my ideas around these topics. So, with that, another introduction, an introduction to my role. So my start to OER and affordability began fairly recently, beginning in fall of 2023. Our university libraries underwent a reorganization that involved the creation of a newly formed scholarly communications unit. So it's housed under the academic engagement and instruction unit. So that's our unit that's responsible for doing all of our campus instruction and outreach in that regard. And within that unit, we have our scholarly publishing and research. So I was formerly a teaching and learning librarian in that same unit at KSU. And I decided to choose to transition into the Affordable Learning Materials Librarian, Affordable Learning Librarian for short, to kind of learn more about open ed and open practices, but also to partner with faculty and campus partners to expand the impact on student success. If you consider yourself a leader in open education, you probably are familiar with several of the successes and benefits for OER, and you probably have your own stories of student success. So for me, coming in new to it, the excitement of a new challenge with very well-defined goals was something that I was eager to kind of get involved in. So it's important to note that my new role is not entirely dedicated to OER. I am still I am being the expert of affordable content and open educational practices and licensing, but I also have additional responsibilities as our unit's content system management or content management system leader, as well as supporting instruction efforts. So there are times that I'm balancing between tasks. However, the goals for my new role were very clear, and I was encouraged to dream big. So our library kind of desired that this role of an affordable learning librarian would create engagement opportunities related to OER, openly licensed content, and affordable learning materials, specifically those low cost and no cost materials, that we would be able to collaborate and build strong campus partnerships to advance adoption, creation, and assessment related to open and affordable content, as well as to develop and maintain expertise in the current trends. So these goals and new responsibilities positioned me as a leader of open education in our library and on campus, but it also tasked me with advancing open education nationally and globally as well. So with that, what does it actually look like? What does being a leader in open education look like? And so on the screen, you'll see a couple of circles that summarize some important aspects of leadership in open education. You might already be thinking, you might have already thought of these before I even had them on the screens about when you're leading open education and OER initiatives. So we do a little bit of everything, whether you're advocating why open education matters or the benefits of OER to faculty or to campus stakeholders like the Center for Excellence in Teaching, or you're strategizing and outlining goals of how we can situate and leverage OER for faculty success. Maybe you're thinking about the planning and workshop elements, right? You could be thinking about learning all you can as an OER librarian or an advocate and inspiring others to adopt that vision. You might also be thinking about the project management piece. Maybe in this season, you're juggling a lot of OER projects, lots of needs and assessments from your stakeholders. And then there's the leadership aspect, right? The leadership styles that you use to carry out some of these elements. Personally, I think servant leadership is huge when it comes to carrying out OER initiatives. You are in the trenches, side by side with faculty members and staff, teaching them, cheering them on as they're trying to kind of do these OER projects. Maybe it's building an open textbook, but you're also kind of building that transformative leadership piece where you are sharing your knowledge in hopes that you inspire and motivate others to get on the open education train and carry it out into their prospective places on the college campus. So there's a lot of different aspects, but I want to engage you guys again for another question. I want you this time in the chat, tell me which of these circles do you think is the most important aspect of leading OER initiatives on your campus? So thinking about advocacy, strategic planning, learning and training others, which of these circles do you think is the one that you need to have in order to be successful in leading open initiatives? Okay, Kelly, yes, learning and training others, absolutely. Any other? I'll take some time for you guys to kind of get it. Okay, yes, servant leadership, strategic planning. Wow, you guys are coming at it from a lot of different avenues. I love that. Yes. Any others? What do you identify as the most important aspects? Servant leadership, advocacy, yes, yes. I see a lot of you are highlighting very important aspects. And I think, to be honest, the answer to this question is very subjective to your campus, right? So there's a lot of characteristics in our individual institutions that make any one of these aspects vital and important. And in my personal experience, it was actually laying the foundation by learning and training others. So for me, I can't be an effective advocate until I know for sure what I'm doing, how I understand the principles and the foundational principles so that I can better advocate to others. And I think gaining that understanding in OER for me was a very valuable first step to becoming the leader on campus, right? However, what do the scholars say about this? What opinions and facts are surrounding these topics? Well, in the Librarians as Open Education Advocates press book, um, in the chapter 3 titled Open Education and Leadership, it asserts that being an academic librarian makes you a leader just by your nature, and that librarians are natural open education advocates, often some of the first people to discuss open ed at their institutions, right? To put it plainly, librarians are already leaders, and the role of the advocate is to support the overall goals of exemplary learning experiences and equity to access to education. So the question is, if we are already leaders, why do our perceptions sometimes not match up, right? Why do they somehow still kind of have that trepidation of, well, how can I lead out these initiatives, right? Well, that kind of brings us to one of those pillar points. In order to stand in the role as an OER leader, you have to know and build your knowledge capacity in order to execute these initiatives, right? So where do you start, right? Let's put this in practical terms. Some of the successful things that I did as I was building the foundation and kind of putting out and the temperature for our campus was understanding where can I find my information points. So I started with the open ed listservs like a Spark Open Ed Forum. I attended webinars from notable open ed rock stars like Abby Elder and lots of other notable open ed champions. I decided at the recommendation of my supervisor to find an OER mentor, which was really great because it's so refreshing when you're tasked with planning out these initiatives on your campus and you talk to someone who is actually tasked with the same thing. You can breathe a little bit and say, how did you do this? Tell me all your tips. And hearing that strategy firsthand was not only refreshing and build your morale as you're trying to strategize and also put things into place at your campus, but it also has someone, a safe place where you can have a sounding board. I also went the route of going and seeking out conferences just like this one to learn and engage what is the current trend and what are the things that I could take back and work with. So one of my first conference experiences was actually at the Michigan OER conference. And I learned from the keynote, just from the keynote speaker, the battles and the obstacles that faculty face when they are trying to adopt OER. And so just kind of hearing that firsthand in a conference environment and being able to kind of sit with that helped me to come back to my campus and understand, well, let me put this in terms of my own faculty's experiences. Could these barriers be things that I will have to overcome? So thinking about those challenges and barriers really help to fortify your understanding of okay, when I'm putting these initiatives into practice, there are barriers, and to acknowledge those barriers are very important, just as important as actually planning the activities and the events and the workshops. So how do you practically put into action effective strategies for leading these OER and affordability initiatives? My first challenge was figuring out, how do I find the OER champions on campus? Because if your campus is bigger like mine, there are over 9 colleges, and each college has its own culture, right? So acknowledging some of the common barriers and issues will help you be more strategic in your planning. So speaking of challenges, some of the common barriers that come along with leading OER our lack or no interest in leadership. Like personally, maybe you don't feel like you have leadership skills. Maybe you feel like I don't have enough understanding of some of these leadership styles. So those are some challenges that you might have to come to reckon with. Little or perceived power. I can't make a difference. Maybe it's the case where you are the only OER advocate in your library right now, and you're tasked with this very big and heavy, um, charge of make OER happen on campus, right? That is a real challenge to overcome. Some other challenges to consider are lack of experience, the scope of your OER initiatives. How big can you scale up? Are there the lack of resources and funding and support on campus? Are those also barriers that are keeping you from being able to carry out tasks and initiatives? The other elephant in the room concerning challenges would be, okay, now we have some misconceptions and misinformation to overcome as well. And so when you're thinking about the profile of your institution and how to carry out these OER initiatives, doing an assessment of the challenges that you need to overcome will be very good in strategizing how you can better serve your campus. So the next set of slides will actually be kind of case studies from my own endeavors of leading these OER initiatives. So my approach to this was start with everyday advocacy. And I started from right here at home in my library. So this required me to do team training, to seek out and refine faculty services and outreach, as well as come up with strategic communication and messaging to share out to campus. So what I started with in terms of team training was we started with the people right here in the library. I conducted a Train the Trainer series where basically I did workshop series for library professionals that would explain the OER basics to all of my library colleagues. This was really strategic because this allows you to broaden your reach through having other people who understand what open ed is and OER and how it can be a benefit on campus. So when it comes to scaling, you now have a team that can help you build and share out information. What also was very helpful is services. So point of service included consultations. So the faculty on campus are able to meet for one-on-one research appointments, or OER appointments as we call them, to kind of just strategize with me. I share and walk them through some open educational repositories. I share what resources are specific to KSU. And I also take that as an opportunity to learn from them and gather feedback. I also go out on campus to department meetings and just do a quick introduction. I say, hi, I'm Femi, I'm your Affordable Learning Librarian. And usually the response is, what's that? And that opens the door to new partnerships and an explanation of what is OER and how can I help you? My third approach was to draft and manage strategic communications. So when it comes to web-based resources. That means all the websites that deal with OER, I manage and make sure that they are maintained. I also have them organized so that when I do campus-wide marketing messages through the appropriate campus channels, I always point them back to the web-based resources so that they have another touch point outside of myself to learn and explore OER resources. So everyday advocacy is a really strong point in leading OER initiatives. Next, and not surprisingly, is building the partnerships. So Dee Dee Dawson in her 2018 chapter or article on effective practices and strategies for open access outreach mentions that relationship and outreach are inseparable. And I found that to be so true in my own experiences. She advocates that you need to know who the informers and the influencers are, meaning that your campus informers are the disseminators of information. For in my case, knowing who the college informers are was very important because those are the people I can tap to say, hey, can you share out this information to your faculty? Can you help me share this event? Can you help me share the flyer, right? As well as knowing influencers or the trendsetters. We all know that at every institution, there are those people who have their thumb on and the pulse on what's happening. That if this group or support service unit on campus is doing something, everybody wants to come and attend. So knowing who the influencers and informers are and leveraging relationships will be very vital to starting and incorporating leadership skills in OER. We also need to take a step and think about how do we define success? Usually when people talk about success, they're thinking about all the data points and all the metric, right? However, when you are planning these initiatives, they tend to be broad in scope, and sometimes they're very difficult to pinpoint specific touch points or data points to reflect the actual impact. So with this, I encourage you to think about success on your own terms. Your initiative's impact is not necessarily measured by the amount of effort you put in to plan it, right? Sometimes you have to look at it from a qualitative approach where maybe you're doing a year-to-year comparative analysis, where in my first year at leading initiatives, I did 2 trainings, I did a workshop series, and I also did a conference. Whereas in year 2, look at the growth. Now we've had 7 webinars, we've had a writer workshop where you can come and learn how to create OER, and you can do that in order to build over time a qualitative analysis of how your efforts are impacting your campus. So sometimes it's not necessarily as easy as, oh, let me just see how many number of people attended this webinar. You have to use your qualitative data to say what the numbers are not. The next and most vital part about planning strategically these OER initiatives is make the action plan. So this strategic document will be so vital in outlining your proposed plan from year to year or from whatever time period you would like. So in my own action plan, what I did is I outlined the events, trainings, and actions that I would like that myself will take, as well as I'd like to host and have for my campus. It also talked about how to implement and advance open education awareness and engagement right here at my institution. So the central components of this would be to have an executive summary kind of outlining what your OER temperature or pulse is now. Is it something that is developing? Is it active? Are there limitations to it? What goals do you have when you're outlining this, right? Are there any short-term or long-term aspects that you need to consider? As well as your assessment plan. How will you know if you are meeting the mark? Are there any adjustments that you need to do? And so with this presentation, there is a supplemental document that has an OER action plan outline that I encourage everyone to adopt. It is shared under a Creative Commons license, so it's free to remix and reuse and revise, as well as redistribute. And I think having an OER action plan would be the best advice I would give to anyone who's trying to learn or trying to engage with this type of planning. It will not only hold you to an accountable scope as far as what can actually be done this year or this or for whatever term limit you have, but it'll also it'd be useful as a document to help your stakeholders also be aware of what you're doing and help you advocate in that regard as well. So definitely for fostering buy-in will be very beneficial to develop this action plan. And then some final tips and takeaways as we kind of assess what it means to be a leader. OER leaders are developed. Yes, you are a leader in your own regard, but when you come into this, there's no playbook for how you're supposed to do these initiatives. There are tons of recommendations and tons of suggestions. However, only you will know what is useful to your institution. So you're the only one who knows the blueprint for your institution, and that changes the scope and the nature of how you will come and develop your OER initiatives. Also, these initiatives require strategy. They're going to require key partnerships as well as an outreach plan. And so when you are developing and considering this, or even evaluating strategies you already have, make sure you take time to assess and evaluate who you need as key players, what you're already doing and what you can maybe do more of if it's working well, as well as how you're going to share out all the great things that you are planning to do on campus. And then lastly, I encourage you to remember that success is not just measured by effort alone. Look for those hidden effective statements. Look for the feedback that comes from those casual conversations with faculty members so that you can use that as a way of measuring your impact. And so with that, I encourage you all to review some of these resources that I found very helpful. The OER starter kit for program managers was very helpful. They have a really great case study by Regina Gong that really kind of gives perspectives on how she did two different OER initiatives and what were the impacts for her from her campus perspective. I also recommend that effective practices and strategies for open access outreach. That is something that transfers very well to open ed initiatives, as well as investigating how librarians are open education advocates. There's a really good press book, an open textbook on that discusses open education and leadership. So with that, I think we are getting close to time, but I wanted to give just a little bit of room in case anyone had any questions or would like to share any practices that you guys are already using that you found helpful as either a newer OER advocate or a seasoned one. So we'll use this time for any questions or any comments.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your approach to leading OER initiatives. It's always great to hear different strategies. And really, some work at some institutions, others may not. And it really depends on your role and your institution. So it's always great to hear what others are doing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And also, I am available. So if you guys want to email me, please reach out. Don't be a stranger beyond this conference. You can still engage. I look forward to knowing you guys and networking. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope that we can collaborate in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.